to stop this technology being used to kill more people in Ukraine?
State.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Right Honourable Gentleman is absolutely right to draw attention to the horror of the continued attacks that we're seeing on civilians in Ukraine. It is beyond abhorrent, and we must continue to remind ourselves of the totally reckless nature of Putin's illegal war. And that's why, as a government, we have an absolute responsibility to use all means at our disposal to make it as practically difficult for Russia as we possibly can. I'm extremely grateful to the efforts of the ministers who are sat alongside me in the work that they do to combat that particular threat. I know that they all take it incredibly seriously, and I look forward to working very closely with them in that endeavour. Chris Webb.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I warmly welcome the Secretary of State to his place. I know he's a man of integrity and decency. I've gladly known him for over 15 years, and I really wish him the best of luck in his new role. I also join him in paying tribute to the men and women who organised and conducted this operation. They are the best of the best, the bravest of the brave, and we all thank them across this House and beyond. But international cooperation is also hugely important in tackling the Russian shadow fleet. So can the Secretary of State confirm that we are working closely with our allies to take every opportunity to degrade their war effort?
Well, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend, who I have known for a very, very long time. I know that he proudly represents a constituency with a long track record of sending young men and women off to serve in our armed forces, and he is a great champion of them and all of those who serve. He's completely right to raise the important point about international cooperation. I've spent much of the weekend talking with allies, and I will be heading to Brussels on Wednesday in order to co-chair the Ukraine contact group with my German counterpart. I also know that my Foreign Office colleague who's joined me on the front bench works tirelessly on these matters to make sure that we collaborate as closely with our international partners to tighten the screw on Russia.
Brendan O'Hara.
Madam Deputy Speaker, and I congratulate the Right Honourable Gentleman on his appointment, and I too pay credit to the Royal Marines on a job well done, and of course welcome anything that helps our allies in Ukraine fighting for their freedom. Of course, decisive action against the Russian shadow fleet could and should have been taken much earlier, and I don't think I'm being overly cynical in suggesting there may be a link between the Prime Minister finally sanctioning this operation and the disintegration that we witnessed at the MOD last week. Given that disintegration was entirely due to the failure of the Treasury to adequately fund our conventional forces, does he share my fear that the seizing of unarmed merchant shipping should soon become the limit of the Royal Navy's surface capability?
Secretary of State.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, let me join with him in paying warm tribute to the Royal Marines. I should probably confess that I haven't spent all of my adult life paying tribute to the Royal Marines, but I'm very proud to be able to do so now. In terms of his second point, let me just say to him, there is no link.
Blair Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I will join all honourable members and the Secretary of State in paying tribute to the Royal Marines, as we are very proud to host the Royal Marine Reserves in my constituency. I welcome the Secretary of State to his place, and I really welcome his assurance that we have not missed a beat in our support for Ukraine. I've been to Ukraine with many honourable members in the chamber tonight, and we know how much the bombs of last night and the attacks of last night on Kyiv will have frightened the people of Ukraine, but how steadfastly supportive they remain. And these deeds are more important than any words that we can say. Can I please urge the Secretary of State and his Cabinet colleagues to maintain this posture, to keep up the action and exploit future opportunities to continue to degrade Putin's war machine so that this illegal war in Ukraine will come to an end?
Well, I'm very grateful to her on both counts, not least because initially she raised the Royal Marine Reserves. And I think it's very important that we pay tribute to all of those who serve in the reserves. I'm constantly inspired by those who are able to balance civilian life, family life and service life, and we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. In terms of her substantive point, I absolutely give her the assurances that she seeks. That is why, as I say, I've spent much of the weekend talking to allies And that's why on Thursday I will be in Brussels to co-chair the next meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contract Group, so that working with our partners we can make sure that Ukraine's forces get the support that they need to fight Putin's war machine.
Alicia Kearns.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I welcome the Honourable and Gallant Member to his place and thank the Royal Marines, Navy and National Crime Agency for their work over this weekend. It is very important, we do need to see more initiatives on this basis. But can the Secretary of State give a very specific cost to the House for the cost of maintaining and ultimately decommissioning this ship? Because the Secretary of State wasn't willing to tell us whether or not the seized oil will pay for that. And this will run into the millions, so the Minister will know the exact costs so that the House can work out where that funding is going to come from.
Well, I'm grateful to her and genuinely sorry that she won't be shadowing me anymore. But I know that she will continue to provide constructive contributions in the way that she has. The figure that she seeks doesn't sit within my department. It will sit within, I think, the Department for Transport. I'll correct the record if I've got that wrong. But I hope she understands that there's been very close collaboration across government with different government departments. There was a huge amount of planning that went into launching this operation. It was a truly joined-up approach across government, with important contributions made by the Department for Transport, but also the Department of DBT as well.
Chris Bloor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I congratulate my honourable and gallant friend on his new role. In and out of uniform, he has dedicated his life to this country, and we're grateful to sit behind him. Can I also pay tribute to the brave men and women that executed the operation over the weekend with the utmost skill. It's clear the operation of the weekend required multiple stakeholders and international cooperation to deliver an excellent result. On that international cooperation, can I ask the new Secretary of State if this is the start of a more aggressive attitude to that shadow fleet in British waters that is conducting an illegal trade to fund an illegal war?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'm grateful to him, and again, he's right to highlight the importance of international cooperation. I think robust action is the word that I would use. I think that the stakes of the war in Ukraine are so high that we absolutely owe it not just the people of Ukraine, but to the people in this country to make sure that we are using robust action in the way that we saw yesterday. He's right also to make the point about the amount of preparation and the planning that goes into these activities. It was an absolute privilege to be very closely sighted on the deployment of our troops over the course of this weekend. They performed a very difficult and complex task in an exemplary way. And he, like all of us, I know, are very proud of them.
Victoria Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Standing up to Russia, standing shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, supporting our military also depends on our military infrastructure and our defence manufacturing. And yet today, a roundtable of advanced manufacturers across the whole supply chain were raising very loud alarm bells about the impact of steel tariffs, especially on category 14 and 17, with the looming deadline of the 1st of July. So would the Minister speak with his colleagues, I see, especially from the Department of Business and Trade, to ensure that actually these tariffs don't have an inadvertent impact on our defence capabilities, especially at such an important time?
Secretary of State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I think the Honourable Lady raises a very important point. I've already taken the opportunity to engage with colleagues in industry, and my honourable friend from the Department for Business and Trade said that he'd be very happy to meet with the Honourable Lady.
Molly Billington.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituency, East Thanet, is a maritime community, particularly in Ramsgate, and the awareness of the importance of safety and security at sea resonates across our community. This ship appears to have been operating under the flag of Cameroon, a flag of convenience that is used by shadow fleets to avoid being properly policed. What efforts are being made by the UK government, either independently or with its allies, or through international channels, to deter flagging states from offering stateless ships the cover of apparent respectability and lawfulness?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'm grateful to her, and she's absolutely right to raise the point about the importance of safety and security of those at sea. She made an important point with regard to a flag of convenience. I know that she will understand that because of the ongoing investigation, I can't get into the specifics of this particular case. But my honourable friend from the Foreign Office has just given me assurance that we are working very closely with our allies on the particular point that she's raised.
Ben Objecti.
I welcome the new Defence Secretary on his battlefield promotion. He'll remember from his time in command that the best way to prove himself to his new team is to take them out tomorrow morning and thrash them at Fizz. So I look forward to that. On the question of the DIP, it was widely reported last week that the funding settlement was 10 billion of cash plus 3.5 billion, which I assume was the in-year cuts that were announced back in April. Yep. What confidence does the Defence Secretary have that in the next 2 weeks that he's been given as a stay of execution, that he'll be able to make that plan work more to a better standard than the previous Defence Secretary could in the previous 9 months and ended up resigning over? And what will happen if the Defence Chiefs dig their heels in? Will he end up publishing the DIP as it was before he took over, or can he guarantee that he will manage to change this sufficiently that it will satisfy all the parties involved?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'm grateful to him for his welcome, which felt a little bit different from some of the comments that I heard reported over the course of the weekend. But I will leave that to one side for now, not least because I think he's extended an invitation to go out for a run in the morning. He seems to be backtracking for that invitation, Madam Deputy Speaker. I understand why the Honourable Gentleman raises the point in the way that he does. I hope that he will understand my determination to make progress. I know that he will understand that I have had a limited amount of time available to get into the detail of all of this. That is my absolute priority. That is what I will be returning to the department to do very shortly. I hope he'll just give us a little bit of time, and in the end it'll be for him to take a view about where we get to with this.
Mark Seward.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I genuinely welcome the Secretary of State to his place? And can I also commend the Royal Marines, the National Crime Agency, the personnel from the RAF and all the others for conducting their work this weekend. Clearly, this isn't the end we will see of the Russian shadow fleet. There are reports that 2 more ships are sailing our way, sanctioned by the US, the EU, Canada, but not by the UK. Now, I am aware that he can't comment on future sanctions, but can he tell us that he'll work extremely closely with our allies on sanctions alignment to close any loopholes that Putin might seek to take advantage of?
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very grateful to my Yorkshire neighbour for his welcome, for the tribute that he's paid to the Royal Marines. But also, I just want to emphasise the support that he offered for the National Crime Agency. I was privileged to work very closely with them over the past 2 years. They do extraordinary work in the shadows, but we should be hugely grateful to them. I give him the assurances that he seeks with regard to the close cooperation with our international allies, joined on the front bench by my colleague from the Foreign Office. I know that he works incredibly hard to ensure that we are best joined up and working most closely with our allies. We take it very seriously. We understand the benefits of doing so.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I welcome the Secretary of State to his position and thank him for his statement and indeed our brave Royal Marines for undertaking this action. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's been reported in the press that our entire hunter-killer fleet is out of the water, being repaired and maintained. Is this true? And when will these submarines be back on duty defending our seas? Thank you.
State.
I'm very grateful to him for the point that he's raised in the way that he has done it. I think he will understand that I'm not in a position to be able to talk about the availability of submarines and the activity that they undertake. But perhaps in the Right Honourable Gentleman opposite questions, why not? I'm quite certain that he wouldn't have done that when he was in government, and I'm not going to do it either. What I will do is pay tribute to those who serve on submarines for their outstanding service.
Spence.
That is a really important operation. Clearly, sanctions are really important, and sanctions against the Russian war machine are incredibly important in defending our allies in Ukraine. However, sanctions only work if we look to enforce them. So what reassurance can the Secretary of State give me that we will continue to, this government will continue to support that enforcement?
Secretary of State.
I'm very grateful to him. He's slightly thrown me because he isn't in his usual place, but it's good to see him over there. He's right about the importance of sanctions, but he's also right about the importance of sanctions enforcement. I know it is an issue that my honourable friend, the Minister from the Foreign Office, takes very seriously. They're kept under very close review, as with other colleagues across government, including with DBT, but I'm very happy to speak to him more about it.
Peter Fortune.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's good to see the member for Harlow moving to his right. Can I also pay tribute to members of the armed forces community who played a big part in this operation? They truly are the best of us. Madam Deputy Speaker, I wonder if the Secretary of State could advise us on any actions that are being taken on the Russian frigate, the Admiral Grigorovich, I hope I got that right, which has been patrolling in English waters for 2 months without intervention from the Royal Navy.
Secretary of State.
I'm grateful to him for the point that he's raised. I know that he will understand that it would be unwise of me to get into commentary with regard to specific activities. But what I hope yesterday's actions demonstrate is our absolute resolve to take robust action against Russia. And we will look for every opportunity to do that.
John Slinger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome my right honourable and gallant friend to his place and his new position. Given that nearly 3 times as many Conservative honourable members were in the Defence Industrial Plan statement as are in the Chamber for this statement, would he agree with me that while of course we're all tempted on occasion to politicise issues, we are better when we speak with one voice in this House, particularly on matters of national security?
Secretary of State.
Well, I think the Honourable Member does raise an important point. I completely understand why members opposite and members elsewhere will want to score political points. I think the public expect us to behave in a grown-up fashion, particularly when it comes to the defence of our nation. That will always be my approach, and that is the approach that I will recommend to others.
Tessa Munt.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Welcome the Defence Secretary to his position, and thank you for his statement. Sanctions are ineffective unless they're fully enforced, and I join my colleague on the Lib Dem spokesperson just to point out, of course, that we cannot allow loopholes to undermine our sanctions regime against Putin's war machine. I point out the numerous shell companies that are used as a shield, as well as flags, to disguise operational control of its shadow fleet, but also Russia's using extensively non-military dual-use manufacturing and the global commercial supply chain to support its war. So can I ask, what action is the Secretary of State taking to prevent Russia from using dual-use manufacturing, to boost the UK's manufacturing expertise so it can identify potential dual use, and to prevent commercial supply infrastructure to support its war, and to ensure that sanctions are fully enforced?
Secretary of State.
Well, the Honourable Lady is right to raise the importance of defence manufacturing, and she raised a number of other important points as well, not least around unpacking transparency and shell companies. My ministerial colleagues on both sides of me, from the Foreign Office and from DBT, were listening intently to the points that she raised and were providing me with assurances that there is a lot of activity in their departments to stand against the kind of points that she raised. She's indicating that she wants somebody to write to her, and we'll work out which one of us is going to do so.
Can I thank the Secretary of State for his statement this afternoon?
Point of order, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Point of order, David Reid.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the earlier urgent question on the Defence Investment Plan, the Minister for Defence Readiness and Industry said that the government are committed to all 62 recommendations laid out in the Strategic Defence Review. And in a later response to a Right Honourable Member, the Minister described those recommendations only as ones the government supports. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, as you all know, the word committed carries specific financial meaning in our civil service. So can the Minister use this opportunity to clarify the government's position? And if not, can you, Madam Deputy Speaker, advise me how to get an appropriate answer?
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for notice of his point of order, and I understand that he also notified the Minister that he intended to raise it. As he will know, this is not a matter for the Chair, but I'm sure that the front bench has heard him, and if the Minister wished to respond, he could, of course, do so through a further point of order. Point of order, Luke Pollard.
Thank you. I'm grateful for my Devon neighbour for allowing me to say again, we back all 62 recommendations of the Strategic Defence Review. We're implementing all 62 recommendations in the Strategic Defence Review. It's an important, first of its kind review, and it's one that this government fully backs.
Motion number 1 on business of the House today. Minister to move.
I beg to move.
The question is as on the order paper. The question is as on the order paper. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Eve. Eve.
Royal Albert Hall Bill, Lords. Revival.
Now. Sir John Whittingdale.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I am pleased to support the revival motion being tabled this afternoon. It is about 8 months since I moved the second reading of the bill. No, I'm sorry, it's about 11 months since I moved the second reading of the bill last year. The bill at that stage had already completed its passage through the House of Lords, and it was given a second reading without opposition. It then went into the Committee on Unopposed Private Bills, and the panel met in March of this year under the chairmanship of the Chairman of Ways and Means, and the committee approved the bill subject to an undertaking given by the Royal Albert Hall, which I will come back to. Now, I don't want to repeat all of my speech that I made at second reading, but I do want to set out once again why the bill is so necessary and is so beneficial, not just to the Royal Albert Hall, but to the many people who enjoy performances there. The Royal Albert Hall is one of our most important cultural institutions. There can be few people in this chamber, indeed in the country, who have not enjoyed performances either live or broadcast from the hall, including obviously the last night of the Proms, the Festival of Remembrance, Cirque du Soleil, and indeed tonight, Elvis Costello. I should declare that I served as a trustee of the Royal Albert Hall, appointed by the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport from 2018 to 2020. I was one of 5 independent trustees, and I also sat on the Conflicts Committee, which is an extremely important part of the management of the hall, to which I will return. As a result of that, I gained a good understanding of the way in which the hall operates, and I saw how the council works to fulfil the charitable purposes of the hall. The hall has operated successfully for 150 years, and to explain why this bill is